Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael. Dude, what's going on, man? It's been a little while since we last did a show. We're gonna double up this week. We're gonna have a show this weekend, and we have a show right now.
Yeah, it has been a little while. The sports world has been pretty busy. We've had some notable NFL transactions that we're going to save for the weekend to talk about because, things are slow with the NFL world. We can afford it. We have some legitimate playoff push talk to have for both the Philadelphia Flyers and the Philadelphia 76ers. It's not facetious. It is definitely very real and present that we'll get to in a second. But what has been the main attraction um, has been the NCAA tournament. March Madness is fully underway. We have in the men's tournament, the Sweet 16 is set, live, and ready for Thursday. So far, it's been a really good one. I know a lot of people are, complaining and moaning about the mid majors not going deep into runs or whatever. But the truth is that this has been a very good tournament. Last year was a good one, but we were kind of missing some of the buzzer beater magic. Those weren't really happening as much. It was more just like good games with good finishes, but not like every team felt like they were missing the buzzer beaters at the end of games. Where now it seems a lot more have been going in on the opening weekend, both rounds, and we've had some really, really good finishes, some very entertaining games. Still, some pretty marquee big upsets have been occurring as well. The defending national champion Florida Gators getting knocked off by the 9-seeded Iowa Hawkeyes. The Texas Longhorns, part of the first four, making their Sweet 16 run after upsetting Gonzaga. So this is a pretty good tournament for what you want it to be, and there's still enough good teams left that the next four rounds should be really good. I'm very excited for the Sweet 16. I really do think there's some really good matchups. John, how's the tournament been for you?
Well, Michael, both my brackets, I'm still I'm in the hunt for first place, and both my brackets. One's kind of like a fun bracket. We're just playing
Mm-hmm.
for fun. And
Yeah.
then we have the punishment bracket. And
Ooh.
the punishment bracket, if you're wondering what the heck that is, the punishment bracket is whoever finishes in last place, Michael, with the fewest amount of points has to serve a punishment. And are you interested in knowing what said punishment is?
Of course, of course.
So, are you familiar with the 999 challenge?
Yes, I am familiar with the 999 challenge.
The loser will have to will have to do the 999 challenge at a Phillies game to be determined. Now,
The
now I'm going to throw a wrinkle into
Is
this.
this the real one or is this the promo marketing one that a lot of teams have been doing the
No,
last few
this
years?
is the real one.
Yeah, because the promo one, it's
And
like,
now we're not evil. We will each of us will chip in money for said
sure.
person.
The biggest issue with the 999 challenge is honestly the wallet. That's a sizable dent to purchase that many dogs and beers. Um,
Correct.
you probably got to go on a BOGO night just to save some
Exactly.
dough.
That's the you
First one
know
is Tuesday.
we'll all chip in like $30 or so for the punishment, but
Hmm.
it's
Nice.
some money. But the this is the caveat to this
Mm.
is there's a lot of people from my fantasy league that are in this punishment bracket, and the person who has to fulfill the fantasy punishment in our league is also in the punishment bracket, and he is in second to last place.
What was the fantasy football punishment?
This person will have to don Mets gear at a Phillies game.
Phillies Mets game or Philly? Just
Oh
you know what?
no,
Honestly, just a regular one will be a lot worse because you'll
that's what
stand
I said.
out. Yeah, yeah,
We are on the same wavelength, Michael. Yes,
yeah. Oof.
yes. It must run in the family, Michael. We both.
No, yeah, that's a rough one. You go to
You
like
were
a
saying like, well,
Phillies.
because my point is like, do we have to really go to a Phillies Mets? I'm like, no. It'd be funnier if it's like a Phillies
Yeah,
Rockies
because you're at a Phillies Mets game, people
thing.
are just gonna assume you're a Mets fan, and like Mets fans are gonna be cheering with you, and that you just look like you don't stick out. But when you're in a Mets jersey in a Phillies Nationals game or something, you are going to stick out like a sore thumb. Man, that's a brutal one. Um, the 999 challenge potentially while wearing Mets gear, that seems like a rough, inevitable fate by whoever the person that is.
I don't think it's gonna happen. If like
That'd
if
be
I'm
crazy.
if I'm handicapping that right now, I would say it's like probably like plus like 350. Like it could happen. Is
Aren't
it gonna
bad odds at
happen?
all, John.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I really hope that doesn't have to happen because even as effed up as it sounds, it's like once you have to do it, it's like
No, it sucks. It's
this
gonna be
this is
brutal.
bad. But
Yeah. Um,
anyway, my So yeah, man, I have Michigan over Houston in
as
my
your final.
as my
I
final. I
have
don't go ahead.
Duke over Arizona in my final.
Oh, okay.
Duke has been
I
looking some
don't think
pretty
we're gonna
well.
see Duke Michigan. I would be surprised. Not that I don't think it can't happen. I just feel like
Duke needs to play better. Just full stop.
Duke is
Duke
not play
needs to play better.
exactly.
Yeah.
I had this. It's funny because when we think of Duke, I mean, for me growing up, I'm sure it was the same thing as you. That under when they had Mike Krzyzewski as their head coach, you just expected them to, ball out,
Hmm.
and it just I feel bad for John Shire to a certain extent because, like, bro, you know how hard it is to have to succeed, like Mike
At a really
Krzyzewski.
high level. No, for sure. It is definitely cards stacked against you. But when you have a team as talented as you've had the last 2 years, and like the way you lost last year to Houston, I recently saw those highlights again of just how brutal was it, you know? They were up 5 after Houston got a technical, and they just couldn't put the game away. Like, it was just a really, really brutal loss. Cooper Flag came up short on his jumper to go up 1. Um, but it was yeah, it was definitely a really tough loss. But we'll see, man. I'm really excited for that Duke St. John's game. I really think that's gonna be a battle for sure in the Sweet 16. But let's let's get us into some interesting
Yeah,
news here. Let's start
interest,
with the Sixers because
interesting.
it's
Yeah,
a little less, you know what I mean?
I
The
mean,
Philadelphia
what
76ers.
do you want to talk about Sixers playoffs so we can just ignore what happened last night?
I mean, yeah, so the Thunder came to town and it was just everything that you expected it to be. Sixers kind of
Yeah,
got rocked. VJ played
It
quite
was the
well.
Thunder versus the Sixers tank squad.
Yeah. VJ played really well. McCain played well. It just sucks, man. It really does. It'll always suck. Um, I don't really want to harp too much on it because it's just frustrating. What I do want to harp on slightly is that Wednesday, Paul George is supposed to be back from his suspension. They said as soon as he's able to play, he's going to play. Like there's no ramp up needed. He's not hurt. He got suspended. And interestingly enough, it may also be the day that Joel Embiid returns from his oblique issue. Feels like they sat him down, made sure he got the rest that he needed, and it seems like they've been kind of targeting the same game for them both to come back, perhaps to take some of the stress off Embiid's return, not wanting him to play like 35 minutes in the first game back. I think a game against the Bulls is a pretty decent spot for it. The Sixers, there's 10 games left, and as the standing sits, the Sixers are currently the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, just a game and a half out of the 5 seed Toronto Raptors, and they're only 1 game back of the 6 seeded Atlanta Hawks, and they're a half a game up on the 8 seeded Orlando Magic, and a full game up on the 9 seeded Miami Heat, and a game and a half up on the 10 seeded Charlotte Hornets. Now the Bucks are pretty far out, so the Sixers are pretty much guaranteed to make the play-in at the very least. But with 10 games remaining and like the Sixers schedule, the way it's set up right now, you're at home against the Bulls on Wednesday. You play at Charlotte Saturday, at Miami on Monday, at Wizards, home Timberwolves, home Pistons with likely no Cade Cunningham, at Spurs, that's a really tough one, at Rockets, that's also another playoff team. But then you finish at Pacers, a team actively trying to tank, and the Bucks to end the season, who are actively sitting Giannis, who wants to play, and they're in their own hell with that. So a good mix of some very winnable games and some pretty tough games, while the like Raptors and Hawks are playing some pretty bad ball at the moment. It really does. Oh, the Hawks, I should not say, are playing bad ball. The Hawks are 9-1 their last 10, but the
No,
Raptors have been
The
pretty
Hawks are one of the
inconsistent.
hottest teams in the
Yeah,
NBA.
excuse me. The Hawks are very hot, but Toronto has not been. The Sixers really held their own. Like it got ugly for a minute there. It really feels like if George never got suspended, who knows what else would have happened, the butterfly effect of all the injuries that really seemingly piled up. But for no Paul George for 25 games, for Noel Joel Embiid for how many ever games it's been, for no Kelly Oubre who's had a sprained elbow, for no Tyrese Maxey who's had, a finger ligament tear. Like for the most part, they really have held their own in a very frustrating way, considering some of the losses that they've had, where it's just not an NBA team out there. But they've done enough to float around and be truly in a position not only to just like avoid the play-in, but move up to a 5 seed. And like that feels pretty remarkable to go up to a 5 seed if that occurs. But um, it definitely feels like it could be in the cards with those guys all getting back. And listen, are they going to go on a finals run? Are they going to go on a deep playoff run? Probably not. The top of the East is very good, but there is no reason where a little 10-game regular season ramp up for George and Embiid, if you do win the games and get to a 5 or 6 seed, there's no reason a best of 7 against the Cavs or the Knicks that you at least don't battle if all your guys are healthy. Like, no doubt about it. If you get pretty good, clean bill of health with George, Maxey, and B and Oubre and, Edgecombe and, Barlow, who sprained his ankle, all those guys are healthy. You can definitely battle with like the second tier contender of the Eastern Conference, not like the Celtics or the Pistons with Cade, but you know, the Knicks and the Cavs, I think you can definitely battle with.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when they obviously with the ramp up too. Like, I would say this, like, I just don't want them to rush Tyrese Maxey back. I know it's like it's a finger injury, and it's not like an ACL or like an Achilles or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm kind of like at the point where whenever the Sixers just rush guys back from injury, like 99% of the time, it completely backfires and blows up in their face. It causes like long term, possibly like irrevocable damage.
Yeah, God forbid.
And I'm not saying that this is like the worst ever injury, but like I could see like the Sixers rushing back Maxi. Because let's say Joel, let's say like, I don't know, like PG, like Paul George comes back and like let's say they start winning some games and it's like, oh, we got to add Maxi because like, oh, we can move up, like you just said, like we can move
Yeah,
up, really get ourselves in a position to, I don't know, Michael, like how far are they back from the 4 seed?
they're not catching Cleveland. They
Okay,
are. It's another. What are they? They're a game and a half behind Toronto, so it's 5.5 games out of the 4 seed.
yeah, the
They
Sixers
have
are
a long
five
ways to
games
go.
back of Cleveland,
Cleveland, that's a pretty far way.
right? It's amazing that they're 6 games above 500 despite the absurd amount of games missed between all of their best players. If you think
Yeah,
about it,
no, it really is. It goes to show just how good
well,
they were earlier in the season.
I
Well,
think this is a very good time to transition to another team that
yeah.
just coughed up a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Flyers Unfortunately, John, I'm unable to watch this game. You're unable to watch this game. I'm sure a large portion of the fan base is unable to watch this game because it's on ESPN Plus. It's one of my least favorite things ever, because it's not like Amazon Prime, where at least there's some TV shows on there and movies that you can watch. ESPN Plus is what, $30 a month for just nothing. Regardless, not to go off that tangent. But the Flyers are on ESPN Plus tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets, whom they are trailing in the standings. This was a big game in the sense that the Flyers entering tonight had about a 12% chance to make the playoffs. With a win in regulation, that would go up to 18%. With a win in overtime or a shootout, that goes up to 17%. And with a loss, either direction, it drops to about 6-ish% to make the playoffs. So a win is very imperative for the Flyers tonight. They jumped out to a 1-0 lead. Captain Coots got on the board, and very quickly, not even 3 minutes into the second period, they're now trailing 2-1. Really, really bizarre because we've done nothing but complain about the Flyers pretty much all season, right? And they've put
I
themselves in a
complain about their decision making and certain players that I don't think should be on there. However, like
with the coach.
yeah, I try to be fair and balanced, but they make it really hard.
Here's the thing is that if they, by some minor miracle, do make the playoffs, because it is still a very uphill battle. However, they have a lot of the work right out in front of them. A team they are trailing in the standings, the Detroit Red Wings, they play them 3 times to end the season here. So, like, you can absolutely make up a lot of ground. Pretty much the entire schedule. They play the Stars as a tough team, but every other team they play is either right in front of them in the standings, right behind them in the standings, or like really bad. So it's like you got to win the games against the really bad teams. You play all the teams around you in the standings, so obviously you got to win those. And then it's like, okay, you can afford a loss to the Stars. It'd be nice if you could get an overtime point or something like that. But what's so bizarre is that if they do make the playoffs, John, we're talking about a potential like Rick Tocchet Coach of the Year campaign. Isn't that absurd? It would be like around a 22-ish point increase from last year to this year, and they'd make the playoffs. Like, eh, it's hard to argue it from like a macro sense, but just being a fan and being in tune with the day to day of what the Flyers have been this year, it would be asinine. We'd be rioting in the streets about it. But like, if you're like the whoever votes on and you're like, well, the Flyers had this many points and they got up closer
No, it
to
really
their
should be
100.
like it should really be like a Dan Vladar should get Vezina
Trevor
trophy.
Zegras. Yeah.
Like, sorry, I mix up some of the names of the hockey
Yeah,
trophies.
Vezina. Vezina's the
The
goalie.
Vezina Trophy should get like Vezina Trophy. He shouldn't win the award, but Michael, this team is as bad on the power play and on offense as it was last year, with the exception of having Trevor Zegras. And you showed me that
And that's
stat.
another.
You showed me
Yeah.
that stat where it's literally the exact same team as the year before, because that's what it is, right? With Trevor Zegras instead of like Ryan Paling, right?
Also, where Zegras does make a big difference, John, they have like what? They have 9 shootout wins this year, I believe. We
He's the
know
best
how good
shootout
Zegras,
player to have.
like ever. Like he's really at such a high clip for a young career. Um, between the shootouts and what Zegras has given you, and Dan Vladar's great goaltending all season, those two alone have given you what? An additional like 20 points on the season? Say they had the same goaltending situation as they did last year. How many points do they have? They're not even sniffing a playoff spot right now. Say they also didn't have Trevor Zegras. We'd be in the bottom 3 of the lottery right now. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
dude, you're gonna laugh your ass off when I'm about to say this comparison, because you're gonna be like, "Oh my god, John, that was like 15 years ago." Dude, Trevor Zegras is the most talented like winger the Flyer in terms of like hands, skill, speed, like the total package they've had since like Simon Gagne.
wow. Yeah,
That is
no,
how
you're right,
bad
man.
they've been at like. And I'm not. It's not a diss to Claude Giroux, but like Claude
And he
Giroux
was the center for a
is a
while, so I'm
center. I'm
not
talking
gonna.
about a guy
Yeah,
that's like, wow, you watch him zip up and down the ice. Oh my god, look at that pass. Oh wow, how did he catch that? That outlet pass. That
for
like
sure.
they're very similar, and like it's anyway. I'm not. That's a
They've
different
fallen
topic.
too far ahead. They've gained too much ground at this point. They're way too far from the bottom that they might as well, make the playoffs, I guess. Like, you dragged yourself out of the basement all year. Like, you've kept yourself
You're,
out, so you
you're
might as
also
well get in.
obscenely lucky that right now the guy that some people think is maybe the best prospect in all of hockey, Porter Martone, you
Yeah.
know, is entering the tournament. I forget the Twitter account that said this. Someone said, "Oh, this is the big tournament to watch Gavin McKenna," and then that person said, "No, this is the tournament to watch Porter Martone."
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Like whatever the
Martone,
Flyers did to screw around with Cutter Gauthier, like you should basically when this tournament is the Frozen Four is over, like you should just basically tell Porter Martone, um, like say
come
like
on down,
I'll be
man.
like I'll be like
We got a
okay,
playoff push.
I would be like okay, Savior, what do you want to do? We'll just do
Yeah.
it. Whatever you
Yeah,
want to
no.
do.
Yeah. No, for sure. You can't mess this one up. Although, I don't think Martone's got the same, maybe mental things that Cutter's going on or whatever. But regardless, the defense this year as a team has been significantly better in years past. Like, Vladar's been unbelievable in comparison, especially to the previous year's goalies that we've had. But another huge difference is just the defensive core has been very, very good. Jamie Drysdale has turned himself into a very, very solid defenseman as it stands, and like seems to continue to be getting better, which is nice. It really is nice. The offensive game maybe isn't where we'd hope it'd be at this point, but defensively has been quite good. And Cam York's also been quite good, and Ristolainen over the few years has been pretty good, and it's just and obviously Sanheim, but the defensive core is so much better that it's been, where obviously the great goaltending is helping a lot, but the defense as a whole, they do a really good job at shutting stuff down. They do a really good job at not like blowing games in overtime and then winning them in shootouts and not just the total sieve giving up amazing opportunities constantly. So, they're a relatively like high when you have a good goaltender and a good defense, your floor as an NHL team is usually on the higher end of things because you can definitely steal games that way. And that's what they've done for a lot of the year. And they put themselves like, if they come back and win tonight, like, 18% chance to make the playoffs, John. Like that's pretty, it's not anything significant. It's likely not going to happen, but the way we've talked
Dude,
about it all year,
I
it's definitely
you
a huge
know,
turn.
you weren't alive when this happened, when this was happening,
Hmm.
but like it has the same vibe. It's those early 2000s Phillies teams under Larry Boa that would finish with like 85 wins and they would finish like 3 or 4 games out of a playoff spot. Now, granted, at that time, there was only 4 playoff spots in baseball,
Hmm.
right? But those Phillies teams had even if they had made the playoffs, no shot at going to a World Series. Just like this Flyers team,
Sure.
if they do make the playoffs, have no shot. None.
They
Zero.
can they can be a tough out with a good Vladar series in the first round.
But their offense is so
No,
anemic,
I know, but
Michael.
I just mean like
You
you can
know?
make a really good team sweat for 6 games because Vladar is like out of his
Wow,
mind.
that's just
No,
great.
I listen. You don't have to convince me that it's
I mean,
worth it, but
this is my thing though. Is this is when like they need to, I hate it's not crude, but they gotta. We'll just say this: they need to make a decision of this purgatory of either making moves to make the team actively better, like actually adding a center, maybe,
mhm,
or if they miss the playoffs again, look at the core, analyze the core, and think, okay, who needs to go? or who could we move to improve this team in a different area. This was one of the most active NHL trade deadlines in the history of the league. I don't buy this whole nonsense of it's hard to make a trade. I don't buy into
Yeah,
that
I mean, at
excuse.
this point, we were like rehashing the same thing that it's just like we're unsure and feeling more negative than positive that the brass leading the charge upstairs is just good enough for what we're trying to do here. But I guess for now, we might as well just enjoy the ride and assess the off season when it comes.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I'm going to still
hopefully,
watch the Flyers. I'm still going to
oh,
enjoy
I'm just saying, like, I
certain
feel like
players.
I'll
However,
give a
but
pass
dude,
on
no,
like the
as
gloom
dude,
and
Michael,
doom.
you are well within your right to criticize what they're doing. They've been
Yeah.
so inept. This is like we complained after 2011 with the Phillies about the purgatory that we were in with that, right? Well within our right to complain about that, right, Michael?
Hmm.
Same thing here. What's wrong with that? Like
No,
that's
listen, I get it. I just I'm just so over it. But, maybe they can go on a little fun run and give us a playoff game. That'd be pretty cool. But it's time, John. It is time.
it
Opening
is.
day is upon us. We have games games starting tomorrow. We have the San Francisco Giants on Netflix hosting the New York Yankees.
Yeah, see, at least with putting the game on Netflix, if I were to watch, like, I don't know, like The Natural beforehand, I suppose I can.
It's just we're just in such a just a hellscape as a
This is
whole.
what are
But
we doing?
I
This
don't know,
is
man.
so stupid.
God forbid the game's on just like Fox or NBC has rights now for this.
Yeah,
Whatever.
how are you growing the game
Yeah.
by making it hard to watch your product?
Well, regardless, we have opening day baseball tomorrow. Yankees, Giants, and then Thursday, the rest of the league will begin. Um, on NBC Peacock at 1 p.m., we have Mets Pirates. Skeens, obviously, big draw there. The Phillies are at 4:15 to host the Texas Rangers. And then the nightcap Diamondbacks Dodgers also on NBC. But a whole slew of games on Thursday. Very, very exciting time. It is always a wonderful time opening day. So for today, uh, do you want here? Why don't I go first, and then you can kind of toggle how you want to set
Uh,
up the standings and stuff. So I'll share, and we can go through what we want to do. We're gonna have the league standings up, and we're gonna have the three main awards: NL, AL, Rookie of the Year, MVP, and Cy Young, and a little World Series pick to go along with it. So I'll share first because I have mine finished out, and then John will do his afterwards. So we can all see this, right? Shout out TJ Stats on Twitter. Very good account. Tweets a lot of good stats throughout the course of the season. So starting in the top left here, we have the American League East. The New York Yankees winning that division, followed by the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles, and Rays. Um, I look at this division and I think it's probably the best in baseball. I think it's the most complete top to bottom. Even the Rays, as much of a down sort of period they're in comparison to recent years, I do still think they're definitely better than every other last place team in Major League Baseball. And then 1 through 4 is just pretty much a gauntlet of teams. Obviously, defending American League champion Toronto Blue Jays. Losing Bo Bichette hurts, but they did add Kazuma Akamoto from Japan to kind of help be that replacement. Are they going to have like a 950 OPS from George Springer? You know what I mean? Probably not, but maybe Vlad takes that massive MVP level leap that we're finally hoping that he does. And the rotation's still pretty steady. They got Dylan Cease, which I think is a pretty nice move to go along with Kevin Gausman and whatnot. So I do think the Blue Jays are still good, but I have the Yankees edging them out. Judge is obviously incredible and carries so much of that lineup. And the lineup's still strong, with Bellinger and Jazz Chisholm and Ben Rice and Austin Wells. Like top to bottom, it's still quite good. Now they have some banged up pitchers, Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, both starting the year on the IL. But when those two guys get healthy, I do think that team is up there at the top of the American League um, in terms of threatening. I look at the Red Sox, one of my more interesting teams on the year. I don't love the lineup. Obviously, you lost Bregman, you traded Devers last year, but a guy like Roman Anthony expect to be good, and as a young guy, be pretty massive for you. But it's really that rotation is that I love. Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray is about as is outside of a handful of teams about as good of a top three as you can have in baseball, with some good depth throughout it. So it's quite a good rotation. The lineup's solid. And then Baltimore, I do think they made improvements. Pete Alonso is a big addition for them. I do think Gunnar Henderson's going to have a huge bounce back season for them, but not totally sold on that rotation. Who knows how real Trevor Rogers is? But overall, I do think that it's the best division in baseball, and I like the Yankees to win it. And I actually have those next three teams as the AL wildcards. I think all three of those teams. Oh, did I lose you? Are you still there?
No, I'm still here.
Cool. I do think that all three of those teams are going to be the AL wild card. That'll be my prediction once we get down to it. The next thing I wanted to go through, we can stay in the AL. Looking at the Central, the Tigers I have winning it off the back of a strong, really strong top two, one of the best in baseball, I'd say. Wouldn't you agree with Skubal and Framber Valdez as a 1-2 punch in the rotation? It's up there with pretty much all the other teams in baseball.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that too. I just think the Tigers are an interesting team. I just feel like they have so many. They're an almost entirely homegrown team,
Hmm.
but like I feel like all of their young players they brought up have not lived up to the billing that they've had, and I don't know like how good are they really? Because like this AL Central, Michael, is such a really bad division.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're definitely my lowest win total of the division winners as a whole, but especially in the American League. The Central is not good. And, how sold am I on the lineup? I'm not, it's a bunch of really nice players, but I don't think a true superstar like Riley Green's probably their best bet, and he still strikes out a ton. Spencer Torkelson had a really nice season, but he got optioned at a point last season. So, I do still think there's some to be desired with that, with the both the bullpen and the lineup. But overall, I do think that rotation carries. To thaw it all out, I have the Royals, very well represented in the WBC, with Michael Garcia winning the MVP, obviously Pasquantino and Waka and all these guys, like a ton of guys,
Caglione.
really. Bobby Witt, Caglione, everyone was there were Royals everywhere in that tournament. I'm just not sold on some of the lineup pieces that take the huge jump this year. It's a lot of hope on young guys, and it's a big hope with Cole Reagans if he can be healthy. If he can be healthy, I think he can be a Cy Young finalist, but the health is the big question mark for him. Cleveland, I expect them to take a step back. I mean, they had a negative run differential last year and won like 86 games. That feels virtually impossible to replicate.
Well,
Um,
when you're in a bad division.
well, and guard ball, guard ball is winning that way, is winning ugly and not like looking all that great.
Yeah, guard ball and brewer ball were both very similar.
They're similar. They're similar with a little, Cleveland definitely lacking in a lot of talent. That rotation I do not think is any good at all. And when you lose Emmanuel Clase, that bullpen takes a huge hit to it. So I don't think they'll be able to close out as many games as they were able to as easily, even though they still got some good guys back there. It's just you removed like arguably the best closer in the game from the team, obviously with the gambling stuff. The Twins, I do think they'll be pretty improved from last year. I'm very excited to watch McAble this year. I do think he can have a really nice season for them. Overall, I do think that they are pretty improved. I it just in a bad division they'll be able to steal some wins from kind of everybody, but still, I do still have them under 500. Then the White Sox, they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be like the worst team in baseball. I'm intrigued to watch. I forgot to mention Kevin McGonigal for the Detroit Tigers. That is a guy that absolutely can make a difference and leave a big impact. Um, if he has a big year, then that lineup ceiling definitely goes up. But the White Sox, Colson Montgomery, that's going to be a guy I'm intrigued to watch this season. I could see him hitting around 30 dunks
Kyle
for
Peel.
Chicago. Yeah, Teal as well is healthy, and the bullpen, I do think, can be kind of nasty. They got Sir Anthony in there, and I still think they got some nice young pieces, but still. And then to wrap out the American League, I had the Mariners being the not only winning the AL West, but having the best record in the American League. I love their rotation. Brian Wu and Logan Gilbert is a great top two, and Castillo to finish to carry it along. And I think they made some nice moves. I think keeping Josh Naylor was a really nice move. Obviously and then trading for Brendan Donovan, I thought was a really, really nice, smart little move from them as well to help shore out that lineup. And, Munoz in the back end of the bullpen is quite good, even though he had a kind of a rough WBC. But yeah, I do think they're by far the best team in that division, and I do think that that rotation is going to do a lot of work to carry them. We saw how good it was for them last year, especially
That
at
rotation,
home.
that pitching staff has been very good the last couple years, but now they finally have the bats to like
Mhm.
actually be like a
Keep up
serious,
with it. Yeah,
to
Julio
be a,
taking a
to
leap and
be a
stuff.
serious team. And look, man, like a big reason why the Dodgers won the World Series last year. But we think about the big bats, it was because their base running and their defense and their pitching, you know, kept them in
Yeah,
games, and then they would just get timely hits from, you know, friggin' Miguel Rojas.
right. So that takes us to my AL playoff picture. The Seattle Mariners, 1 seed, New York Yankees, 2 seed, Detroit Tigers, 3 seed as your division winners, and then all wild card representatives coming from the American League East. I just think it's a lot more than what we got out here in the AL West. I finally think the Astros not only don't make it, but also kind of look rough doing it. Only going 82 and 80 there, and then rounding out. And yeah, that's my American League. Now to the National League. We'll start with the NL East. I have the Philadelphia Phillies, 94 wins. I think there's a lot of people that are a lot of fans here that are kind of over it, and I think there's a lot of general MLB people that are kind of, I think, underrating the Phillies at this point. I do think that, Ranger being gone is obviously a big hurt for them, but it's a guy that, again, how many is he really going to throw you 150 innings? You know what I mean? Like, love Ranger and stuff, but it's just the health and you know fatigue is very real with him in terms of being concerning. And last year, like, I think we forget that he was not looking good at the end of the regular season, and was nails in the playoffs in a very short spurt there. Where I think a bounce back Nola, I'm very in on a bounce back Nola season. I think that does more than enough to replace it. And I do think Zach Wheeler is going to look pretty much like himself when he does get back in what seems like April. And the bullpen much improved. We've talked about it plenty. And you look at the lineup. You got your 3 stars at the top, and maybe it's a boring 4 through 9, but it's a 4 through 9 that's going to consist of a bunch of guys that are going to finish with wars of like 2 to 3.5 plus. And it's like, not everyone can say that most of their lineup is made up of a bunch of guys like that. And I think that they're a
What do
very
you
high four team.
what do you think? What were your thoughts on Jim Salisbury's
Oh, the Bohm comments.
foam comments? You interpreted it one way. This was my interpretation of it. Do you remember when Casty first got here? The first verbal spat he got into where the reporter was. Michael, do you remember who the reporter was that he got into a spat with?
It was Jim Salisbury, wasn't it? And you did get in a little.
So that was Jim Salisbury's little attempt. I love Jim Salisbury's work, by the way.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
But it's like the press are, if you want to just act like a clown or get snippy with them, listen, they'll bury you. They'll bury you right back. And Salisbury's plugged into that clubhouse he's practically in that clubhouse. Like he's basically almost like a player is or a
Yeah,
coach.
no. And listen, he's right. Ultimately, what Bohm provides, it's if there was a true cleanup four hitter in there, it's a lot more
What
valuable
he
and would get a
basically
lot more
said was if
appreciated. But
Casty didn't blow,
yeah, we'd
Alec
all like Bohm a
Bohm would
lot
not
better.
be getting ripped as much as he is. It's almost like
And
saying,
it's true, but the fact of the matter, third overall pick and the ceiling has been like a solid six-hole hitter. Like it's not what you wanted from your 6'5" third baseman. But to round out the NL East, I do have the Mets much improved at 89 wins. I think the rotation is good, but I think it's also like Freddie Peralta is very much five and dive, and you're putting a lot of faith in some young arms, Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong and stuff like that. It's a lot of faith in some rookies and
well, the Mets' biggest issue to me is their bullpen,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
let's face it too, their power. Um, Marcus Semien. What was the poll that said like who was like the most overrated or cooked player entering this season? It was like wasn't Semien like second? Or like who was the most despised player? It was like Casty number one, and then at number two it was like Marcus Semien.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and like listen, I think it was smart for them to move off of Nimmo. I don't know if I forget. I forget his YouTube name, Michael, but he does a lot of analytics. He did like the five bounce back hitters for this year and like the five most hitters likely to regress. He had Nimmo as one of them.
Well, I mean, Nimmo, yeah, I mean, what, bouncing back or regressing?
Regressing.
Well, I mean, they trade, him being part of that Semien trade. So that's them, moving off some of their dying parts there. The Mets. I look at the Mets like Bo Bichette's really nice. It's not different type of hitter than Pete Alonso is. That'll be interesting to see how he's replaced. But it just feels like they warded off some of the stench. They got rid of Nimmo, they got rid of Pete, and they got rid of McNeil and replaced it with Jorge Polanco, Marcus Semien, and Bo Bichette. And it's just like definitely a totally different vibe. Um, the bullpen is not super exciting. But again, 89 wins, you're a very good team. There's no doubt about that. The Braves, I'm not very high on the Braves. The lineup I still think can be good even without Profar. I think, Acuna's great. Olson's really good. And, Drake Baldwin might actually be the real deal. Um, we'll see what an Austin Riley's bounce back potential season looks like. But that rotation, the bullpen's very good in Atlanta as well. But the rotation is depleted. Strider's oblique now is banged up, and he didn't look good in the spring.
Michael, it is crazy. When I look at this Atlanta Braves team, a team that won the NL East like 13 years in a row off of I was gonna say off the back of, but the arms of guys like Maddox, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, Kevin
Right.
Millwood. You know, now it's like they had just their pitching is just constantly hurt, and it's like
Like Chris
it's
Sale's great, but can you get another 190 innings out of Chris Sale? I don't
if
know if
we
you're going to get
Michael
that.
if the FanDuel was going to put out odds on pitcher to suffer UCL tear, would you think that Chris, if we were to put odds out on that, what odds would you give Chris Sale of that
Yeah,
happening?
he'd definitely be
Like plus 200?
maybe not that low, but definitely up there. Um, and Schwellenbach being out like a couple months, and Elder is just banged up and not good anyways. It's a bad rotation. And then the Marlins and Nationals. I do think the Marlins are going to have some nice pitching. I do think some of their young bats are inspiring, but again, we're talking about a 75, 76 win team. The Nationals, they're terrible, flat out. I think they're one of the worst teams in the league outside of like James Wood, CJ Abrams, and like Cade Cavalli. I think it is a whole lot of slop. I mean, Dylan Cruz is starting the year in AAA for them. That's all you need to know about the
Dude,
state of the Nationals.
dude, I saw this thing about Dylan Cruz where someone said like, was kind of like slandering him a little bit. They were like,
Hmm.
you know, oh, the Nationals, what were they thinking taking Dylan Cruz at number two? And it was like the Pirates were seriously considering taking Dylan Cruz with the first overall pick over Paul Skeens. Like
Yeah.
Dylan Cruz, just if he's just gonna be a bust, there's a strong if we're talking about all time MLB bust players, like there's a strong chance Dylan Cruz would be on that list.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Heading to the Central, I have the Brewers winning the division again, even like losing Freddie Peralta. Um, I still think that their method kind of works. They acquired Angel Zerpa, which we saw how crazy of a WBC he had for Venezuela, and imagining that in the bullpen with Uribe and stuff. The Brewers bullpen is going to be
Man,
great.
I don't.
It
So,
always is.
man, I feel like a hypocrite because I was so encouraged by Aaron Nola's like WBC performances, but bro, like I don't know, man, I can't put too much stock in the WBC because look at the disaster that Roki Sasaki is right now.
No, listen, I get it. I do think it's not everything. It's just like a guy that a reliever especially that struggled in not looking amazing, but looked really good in in this WBC. It's something that just it intrigues me. And I think with their bullpen as a whole is very, very good. And, a full season of the Miz. And I think that their lineup is going to be like fine. Like they play great defense. They run the bases really well and aggressively. Like obviously they lack in power, but they make up for it with dominating on the margins, not just being good at it,
They've been
dominating
living
at it.
off of like DH Yelich for the last couple years. It's their offense really is like
Yeah,
dependent on
they
him.
need I think they could really use Churio to take the next step. And he's still very young, so
Yes, of
but they could definitely
The
use him.
Jackson trio of Jackson Merrill, Jackson Churio,
Yes.
Jackson Holiday.
Yes. And
Yes.
then the Chicago Cubs, they have them finishing second. You're basically swapping out Kyle Tucker for Alex Bregman, and I do think that is a downgrade. You think about why they very quickly traded Isak Paredes because of how much he pulled the ball down the line as a right-handed hitter. And then you think about when you're thinking of Alex Bregman and all his big hits and home runs and success in Houston, you're like, wow, those Crawford boxes, they're not very far down the field.
So they got to basically move the left field in by about 30 feet and then raise
Yeah,
it by
at
like
Wrigley of
30
all
feet.
places. So that's not happening. But and again, the lineup is still going to be good. Like Michael Bush was very good last year. I think you could get an improved PCA. Um,
Dude,
but
now if you're going to throw the WBC out there, if we're going to treat WBC as the gospel,
I'm
dude,
not treating it as the gospel.
you're okay. Well, we'll
It's what
see.
we saw.
The
We all watched
PCA, the
it.
PCA is like a potential MVP candidate. If we're
He
gonna,
was last year, was he not? What he finished third, fourth in voting or whatever
yeah,
last
well,
year?
he played like 2/3 of the season. The last third, it was like he's
It was
literally
horrible. Yeah,
he
yeah, it
was
was
like
bad. Well, that's what I'm saying. A full complete season of that. Yeah. So I don't love the Cubs rotation. I think the bullpen's solid with like Palencia back there, but the starters like you get Justin Steele back and Cade Horton, and it's a bunch of guys that you're intrigued by that you maybe like, but I don't think you're enamored with any of them. Matthew Boyd and uh, Imanaga, and I- it's just a bunch of okay. I don't think the starting pitching is going to be good enough for them to take the division back from the Brewers. Third, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates. 80 and 82. I think we'd all be shocked if this time last year we're like, oh, the 2026 Pirates are going to be around 500. Everyone be like, yeah, right. Um, but the truth is that they went out and they got some. They just got some like major league hitters. They got Brandon Lau. They got like Marcelo Zuna. They got potential like bounce back candidates and just guys that are they're
Zuna
major
from the
league
Pirates.
players. Yeah. And the rotation is going to be quite good, young and exciting. Paul Skeens obviously, incredible Cy Young last year, but you got a bunch of young guys that's very, very interesting. You got Bubba Chandler, you got Braxton Ashcraft, you
Well,
got Jared Jones, and you got
I
Mitch
feel
Keller.
I really feel for Pirates fans because Connor Griffin is who has been
Yeah.
absolutely raking this spring. The top prospect in baseball
Hmm.
is going to start in the minor leagues so they can screw with this service time.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Which, by the way, that will be, we talk about the labor dispute that's going to happen within the next year, Michael. Michael, I guarantee you that will be a topic of discussion.
For
Because
sure.
could
So
you imagine in the NFL if they had that service time manipulation or like playing time where it's like if you sit your rookie quarterback for let's say the first 6 games that they you get an extra year on a
on their
contract
rookie contract. No,
on their
it
rookie
would be
contract.
pretty asinine. I mean, any sport it would be pretty crazy. Um, and baseball, you can definitely manipulate it the most. But yeah, I mean, Connor Griffin when he comes up, that'll be a nice jolt in the arm. But I don't think it's just quite enough. I don't think they're gonna have a full on like Reds season and sneak in the playoffs. But third place in that division, I think, solid enough. The Reds,
I've
on the
said
other
this
hand,
before, Michael. It would be extremely beneficial for Major League Baseball if Paul Skeens got to pitch in a postseason game. You saw how people were acting when he was pitching for Team USA in the WBC. It was like, oh my God, Skeens is pitching for Team USA. This is amazing. Well,
hmm
imagine like, Paul Skeens and Zach Wheeler pitching in a playoff game against each other.
no, absolutely, it would
Battle,
be.
Battle of Pennsylvania, man. Like, think of that.
That's what no, I don't doubt that they want him in there, but I just don't think they'll have enough. The Reds, team that just didn't do a ton to me. I think they have a lot of guys that they hope can bounce back and some young guys that can
Well,
come through to
Michael,
fruition, but
it's really not a good sign when your cleanup hitter is Austin Hayes still on the Reds.
no, he's on the White Sox, I believe.
It's not a good sign when your cleanup hitter last year was Austin Hayes.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's just not a great team. And then the
They
Cardinals,
re-signed Eugenio Suarez. He's going to be their new cleanup hitter.
yeah. And listen, that's intriguing. I like prove it. You felt like he deserved a little bit bigger of a contract than what he got. But on a prove it deal in a place he's comfortable, I do think that could be something for him. Cardinals finishing it out, they're not good, and that
Wow.
makes me very happy. Uh, NL West, I have the Dodgers, shockingly, winning the division. 95 wins. It's an improvement from last year. It's nothing, record breaking or anything because we know how they operate in the regular season. They're trying to, they want to win their division and they want to get healthy in the playoffs and have all their guys. They're going to manage their pitchers the way they need to manage them. They're going to ensure that their veteran hitters are, healthy as they need to be. And getting a guy like Kyle Tucker, it does a lot to like, I'm not saying you're going to like, oh, sit Freddie Freeman down for a few weeks or something like that. But it's like if he has another nagging injury, it's not as big of a deal to have him maybe take some extra time off, like he kind of had last year with the injuries that he was dealing
I
with. And
agree. So, Michael, I had this theory about the Dodgers about this, and I think the Kyle Tucker move, this is why they had to make this move, is
Mhm.
that video I mentioned to you, I saw on YouTube. I really wish I wrote it down so I could mention it to
Mm,
you.
yeah,
One of the other hitters that he mentioned that he was going to regress was Freddie Freeman, citing his age
mm,
and his peripherals. Like he's just not like his like baseball savant because the guy he was using baseball savant as a
yeah.
reference references. His savant has just gone down every year, which is logical based off of his age. However, I also want to bring up too. I don't think we're ever going to see 10 War Mookie again. I don't think we're going to see that ever.
No, no, like listen, and they're not trying to. It's get
But
through.
they can still very like they are the final boss of like Brewer ball, guard ball, like that analytic ball to grind out wins. They are the final boss because that's why they had so many like early postseason exits despite winning like 100 games. Then they added Otani, and that completely
Flip the whole thing. Yeah, no, for sure.
yes.
So we'll see. Roki Sasaki. I honestly, John, I think they should just make him a bullpen arm. I think it's not. I know that wasn't the goal, but it's not like Yamamoto. They didn't give him a $300 million contract. You know what I mean? They signed him to a entry
Well,
normal rookie
not for
contract.
nothing.
Would you not do it?
Yamamoto was essentially like the 3-time Cy Young award, their version of the Cy Young in Japan, where they
Yeah.
give where they sometimes don't give out an award if someone's not worthy of it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And the scouts were saying, "Oh, Roki's better because look at his stuff." Like, I'm sorry, Michael. Like Tariq Skubal has like really good stuff. That's like saying like Jesus Luzardo is better than Tariq Skubal because his stuff is nastier than Tariq Skubal's stuff.
No, well, I mean, I think it was projecting. I don't,
Right, because I know
Sasaki. Here's the thing, this stuff just hasn't translated. Like, it's not like he's pumping
he can't throw
100 in
strikes.
his bad starts.
He
Like, his
can't throw
fastball,
strikes over a 5 inning period. He can
yeah,
throw strikes
he can't do much of
in a one
anything
inning
for a
period because you can just
5 inning
go all
period.
out.
Yeah, he just can't do anything in a 5 inning period. He can't throw hard enough. He can't This stuff isn't as good as a starter. I really do think that the Dodgers could really just pivot him to be
Do
a
you
bullpen arm.
think? Do you
And
think Roki's postseason was so good because like the Phillies just choked and like the Blue
no,
Jays just choked and the
no,
Brewers are just bitches?
no, I think that he's a really talented arm that maybe isn't cut out to be a starter and should go in the bullpen like Andrew Miller did. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's that. Like, it's a guy that the Dodgers they don't have like any serious financial commitment to. It's not like Yamamoto came over, couldn't be a starter, and it was like, man, we're really screwed. He'd be so much better as a bullpen arm, but we're not paying a closer $300 million. Where Sasaki's making nothing in comparison. It'd be better off. I mean, he's not recording outs in spring training outings. He's getting hit around. He's walking a bunch of guys.
Sasaki
It's
might
just
actually,
ugly.
honestly, Michael Sasaki might be like a deadline piece they use to maybe acquire a more proven player because some team might be intrigued by the talent.
Potentially. I mean, but I also think, like, I'm thinking of a playoff bullpen that has Edwin Diaz and Roki Sasaki, and I'm like, okay, well, simply no one is ever scoring runs there. Like, that's where I'm at. So the Dodgers, they got better from last year for sure. And I have them winning the NL West, not surprisingly. Maybe surprisingly, I have the San Francisco Giants finishing in second in this division and actually nabbing a wild card spot. I think that adding guys like Harrison Bader and able to move Jung Ho Lee to a corner outfield, I think that defensively they're going to be quite good. Like Patrick
Even
Bailey
if
and
Bader
Thomas
just
is
can't
good.
hit,
I mean, it's just defensively, I think they're so good with a rotation that's still pretty intriguing with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray. Like, it's solid, and the bullpen is solid enough. And you get a full season of Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, and like it's a very good defensive team. You have some intriguing enough bats, and I think your pitching is much better than what the Padres have to
was
offer.
Rafael Devers really good defensively at first base?
I mean, from what we saw last year, was definitely a lot better than what it was at third base.
That's
That's
not
for
really
sure.
saying much, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. And then the Padres, they have them finishing 500, maybe a little disappointing, but that rotation is not good and not exciting. Their bullpen's awesome, maybe the best bullpen like ever assembled, like Mason Miller and um, Jason Adam and all those guys back there just shutting games down. But a great bullpen can definitely become worse if your lineup
And
is, or
I,
sorry, if
I
your
want to
rotation's
make
not good.
a prediction about for the Padres.
Sure.
I think the Padres, if
Tarek.
Tarek Skubal becomes available at the deadline because he will not be re-signed. We know the Padres would just somehow find like 8 prospects to go trade to bring him over because that they don't care. They do not
I
care.
Yeah, no, we know Preller does that. I don't know if they might need like another year to replenish the prospect pool. They already traded DeVries for, Mason Miller, a top 3 prospect in the whole sport. They might just be out of it. They have all their deadline acquisitions from last year again with, Ramon Laureano and whatnot. But how good is that really going to be? We'll see. Diamondbacks, similar-ish to like the Padres, where I like pieces in that lineup. I don't like the bullpen nearly as much as I like San Diego's, and then the rotation I'm just not really convinced on. It's like Gallen as your ace, and that's not very exciting. And
It's
then the
not good when
Rockies.
your ace is coming back on a 1 year prove it contract because he was just bad the last year.
Yeah, and I will say the Rockies 64 wins is obviously terrible, but they had like 43 wins last year. So this is a massive improvement in my opinion. They hired what's his name? They hired Jonah Hill's character from Moneyball to kind of run their baseball team. So they have they're
That
going
would
to
be
have some
Paul
major leaguers
DePodesta.
on the
Is
yeah,
who
Paul
you're thinking
DeBatista. Like it's like they they didn't have like an analytics department or an R&D department as of like 3 years ago. So this will be an improvement. So to round out the National League, Dodgers as my 1 seed, Phillies as the 2 seed, Brewers as my 3 seed as your division winners, and then the wild cards, one from each division, the New York Mets, Chicago Cubs, and San Francisco Giants. And to quickly go through my award winners, I have NL MVP Shohei Ohtani, NL Cy Young Christopher Sanchez,
about.
NL Rookie of the
Wow.
Year Bubba Chandler, AL MVP Aaron Judge, AL Cy Young Garrett Crochet, AL Rookie of the Year Kevin McGonigal, and then AL winner New York Yankees to take on the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series. And yes, we get it done in the year 2026. So
Oh
that
no.
is my prediction for this MLB season.
I'm not going to go through each. I guess because
You can give me your division winners and your awards.
so I agree with a lot of what you said about the divisions. Now, going through is there a way I can just clear all this out, like all the wins?
Uh, Not on this.
Okay, I just hit refresh order, so it's all okay.
It's just in order of
I like
how it
the
was set
Boston.
on
So can
Fangraphs.
you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
I like the Boston Red Sox to actually win the American League East for a couple of reasons.
Wow.
I think they're past due, number one, to win an American League East. This Yankees team, Michael, I don't know, man. I just there's a lot of like question marks with their pitching with health, and like I'm not sold on that bullpen either. And like I think they could win 88, 89 games. I just think I'm really bullish on the rotation and like guys like Roman Anthony. I just think that
Hmm.
they're going to. I think this is the year they kind of ascend and like kind of put everything together.
All right. Red Sox winning the East.
And then I'm gonna have the Yankees behind them as a
Hmm.
playoff team. And I just I think the Blue Jays will be like the 6th seed. I do think they've gotten worse. I agree with you on some things. Like, yeah, is George Springer going to have another monster year? Probably not.
Yeah.
Obviously not. Um, Blue Jays, they're pretty good at developing young players. I think they'll kind of like Brewer ball it up with some of their like young guys too to make up for like a Bo Bichette. Let's not forget Bo Bichette's a horrible defensive player as well. So they'll aggregate maybe his like wins above replacement in other areas. And yeah, I think the Blue Jays and the Rays will be fighting for like not to finish in last place. Michael? Did you see the Junior Camaro's numbers in the George Steinbrenner Field?
Yeah, it's Caminero is definitely a potential regression candidate. With the he had great numbers at home in the minor league park for sure.
Yeah, and I'm pretty bullish on the like some of the bats for the Royals. I think that Alonso, Gunnar, Jackson Holiday trio can do a lot of damage. But again, another team. You look at their pitching, questionable. Definitely gonna be one of those teams that's gonna be active at the deadline to get pitching as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Take us to the Central.
I I'm intrigued by the Royals. I feel like whoever's team hits on their prospects is going to win this division. And by that I
Hmm.
mean between the Guardians, the Royals, and the Tigers. And if you look at the Royals prospects compared to the Tigers, I just feel like Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, like I just feel like this Royal team can really slug the ball. And I don't know, man. I really like Salvador Perez. I think he's probably of the last 10 years, Michael. I feel like he's one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in baseball. Like everyone, you know, like worship Yadier Molina.
Right.
You know, Salvador Perez, Michael. I think he's right there with him. Is actually better than Yadier Molina. I'm sorry. Did I say that? Oh, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, and I don't know, man. This whole thing with the Tigers, man, like this whole Skeens drama with them being cheapskates, man. I feel like that kind of bleeds into the clubhouse a little bit. You look at the Cubs, right, with them being cheapskates. You know,
Right.
it's got to be. You see, like Bryce Harper, kind of like it's funny. Like he's up. Like it's funny. Actually, it's ironic because he talks about like keeping things in the clubhouse, like the whole Dombo not elite comment, like word salad he gave. But he's talked a lot about the CBA and his thoughts on it, and he's basically kind of indicated the thoughts of a lot of MLB players. Like
Yeah.
when your team spends money and wants to win, it increases morale in the clubhouse.
Sure. Sure. When they give you, they're showing their belief in you. So
Yeah.
how do you have the Royals winning this division?
Yes.
Do you have the Tigers making the playoffs at all or
And
no?
all the Tigers as a wild card team.
Okay.
And then we go to the AL West. So we have I think the Mariners will win the AL West. But then I think it's between this is Michael, I don't know if I sound crazy. I could see a dogfight between the Astros and the Athletics. Yes, just Athletics, not
Hmm.
the Sacramento Athletics, the Las Vegas Athletics, for for a playoff spot. Maybe the Athletics will battle the Tigers for the final playoff spot because I really love their young players for the Athletics.
Yeah.
Love Nick Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, Lawrence Butler. I think Brent Rooker. I like Brent Rooker's bat. And they play in that Fugazi minor league field, Michael, which means they're going to be hitting tons and they're going to score tons of runs.
So do you have any of these AL West teams making the playoffs, or are your wild cards the Yankees, Tigers, Blue Jays?
I think people are really underselling the Astros. They are the Astros.
Hmm.
They kind of invented them and the Rays kind of invented the whole Brewer ball, guard ball, like approach to winning baseball games.
Right. So if you have, so let's iron out your seeding. Who's your one seed between the Mariners, Red Sox, and Royals?
What's that?
Who's your one seed between the Mariners, Red Sox, and Royals?
I'm going to go with the Mariners.
And then Red Sox, Royals, 2-3.
2-3, and then we'll go wild card. Top one's going to be the Yankees, and then we'll go with the Tigers, and then the
Blue
Astros.
Jays. Oh, Blue Jays missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Blue Jays are going to miss the
Ooh,
playoffs.
wow. That would
Dude,
be
I'm really
that'd be
not that
so
big. Dude,
disappointing.
I'm really not that big on Dylan Cease, man. They
I,
paid.
and I, I definitely have my concerns with Dylan Cease. Absolutely.
I thought it
Um,
was wild that dude, he was in the perfect situation in San Diego in that park, and he just was like unbelievably mid.
yeah. All right. Head over to the NL. What do you got for me?
Okay, so really similar to you, I have the Phillies winning the National League East. Then I have the Braves, and then I have the Mets.
Braves above the Mets. How
I have
about it?
the Braves above the Mets, dude. I feel so. I don't know. So when I look at the Braves Mets dichotomy, the Braves always somehow find a way to hang around, and you just question how they do it.
Hmm.
You're like, how are they not like dead yet? Where the Mets just find ways to screw up. It doesn't matter who's in the clubhouse. There's a term for it, Michael. It's called metting it up.
Right.
They find a way to met it up, and this bullpen is so bad. Like Michael, we're gonna see. We could potentially see like Frank the Tank having meltdowns over Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
And then
Phillies.
and then like Marlins are an intriguing team, but like they're we're literally gonna have a lockout because of how they conduct their business. Like
Yeah.
think about that.
It's a shame. I mean, you see how packed the World Baseball Classic was in that stadium. There is a baseball fan base there, but those teams are just they're terrible. They're never good. They had a team make the playoffs and then they blew it up within a year and a half. The entire team. Like I don't know. What do you got for me in the Central?
Uh I think the Central is going to be like last year's AL Central. This is a bad division. And I envision the Pirates being in the lead of this division for a few months, and then I see them just collapsing, and then the Cubs kind of surging through, and then possibly winning the division with like 86, 87 wins. Because that's what I think they are. They're an 86, 87 win team. And, Fangraphs has them at 84 wins, right? So that's
Hmm.
kind of in line with Fangraphs here. I think it's pretty telling, though. The Pirates have 83 wins, and you're like, how the hell are they? Do they have 83 wins? Have they just been so bad for so long? They're going to do nothing at the deadline. They're going to make nothing major moves, and then they collapse. That is my prediction. That's my like big prediction. I feel like I'm very confident it's going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, Brewers, they'll probably finish around 500. I mean, you mentioned Brewer ball, but dude, you know, in baseball, you damn well know as I do, it's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And you
Hmm.
can farm as many wins as you want. But Michael, we've seen the Rays kind of have a couple down years. There's only so much analyticing you can do to get wins, and you just keep letting good players go.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to keep having that constant pipeline of players to replace guys you're getting rid of.
Hmm.
And then like you got the Reds and the Cardinals. Man, Cardinals are just that's wow. It's very surprising how bad they're going to be this year.
Hmm.
Very surprising. And the Reds, man, Hunter Green being hurt. You're a Red fan. That's tough, man. That's
That
tough.
that's a big thing I forgot to mention. Like I like Chase Burns and like they got some guys in there for the rotation, but no Hunter Green for a few months. It just deflates the whole
See, the
operation.
big thing for the Reds is going to be this, and we all know what it is. Is Ellie De La Cruz going to turn into like this 8 to 9 WAR like freak of nature, where it's like, oh my god, like is he just watching it? It's like watching him play. Is it going to be like must see television? It's like with Ronald Acuna Jr. his MVP season with the Braves. It felt like
Hmm.
must see television. You know,
Right.
like if this was 2004, you go and fire up Sports Center before you're going to school, and you see the highlights of like the Reds game, and oh my god, what did Ellie do in this game? I want to know. You know,
Right. Right.
right? But dude, like he's a good player, but with the talent, it doesn't match. Like the stats don't really
He hasn't put it all together yet.
exactly. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was trying
Yeah.
to say. Thank you.
So you have the Cubs winning this division,
Yes,
and the do you have the Brewer? Like, do you have any of those other teams in a wild card spot for you?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Take us to the NL West then.
NL West. I have the Giants winning the division. Psych. Just
Yeah.
kidding. No. I have the Dodgers winning this division, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, Michael, do you find it, I don't want to bring this up with the Dodgers. You didn't bring this up at all. I don't think you even said this guy's name. Shohei Ohtani. Who was like the last player in Major League Baseball to put up like redonkulous numbers like he does and actually has rings to sort of like back it up? Griffey has no
Um,
rings. Bonds has no rings. McGuire has one ring from when like he was like a rookie.
it's probably like A-Rod. He's
One
only got
ring.
one. Ooh, like, no, yeah. I mean, most guys only have one that are put up numbers that were that absurd. Um, no, it's definitely it's it's hard to put up really good numbers and be on a really good team like that. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like most guys that are like all-time greats, they just end up, you know, just not finding their way on a really successful team or a team that, can sustain playoff success.
Yeah, because if you look at like if you like we look at the Yankees of the '90s, like Jeter was like the best player,
Yeah.
but his numbers weren't like like he had good like hitting numbers. I mean, like home runs, RBIs, runs, walks,
No,
stolen
like
base.
I mean like goat level stuff. No, for sure. You have like it's him and Judge in a league of their own.
Like, is it like Mickey Mantle? Like,
uh
do I really have to seriously go back that far?
yeah, you might for multiple. So you have the Dodgers winning it. How do you have the rest of that division playing out?
Well, I like the Padres
Mm-hmm.
um, because their bullpen's really good, and I think like they can slug their way, like to get 4-4 in like the seventh inning, and then manufacturing runs to get wins.
Right.
I agree. Their rotation is really bad. It's old, broken, and it's broken down. A lot of
Yeah.
question marks there.
Mm-hmm.
Is Nick Pivetta on their pitching staff?
Yes, yeah. He's their
Is he their ace?
uh
Ace.
mm, yeah, he is their opening day starter against Tarek Skubal. So it's rough, man. It's a rough
Right.
rotation.
And I think they'll win 85, 86 games. We'll just say.
Okay.
All right. They'll find a
So
way. And then, I like the Giants too. I agree. I think flip flop for me, the Giants and the Padres and the NL West. I think they're going to be two of my playoff teams along with the Braves.
so you have the Mets missing the playoffs again.
Why is that absurd? Why is that
I just think it's
ridiculous?
a lot. I didn't think they'd miss again. I don't know. I thought that.
Michael, I've watched a Mets team cough up a 10-game division lead to the Phillies.
Listen, I hope so, man. That'd be awesome. So
Like 2 years in a
your
row, they did that.
NL playoff picture, you have what? Dodgers as your one. Who's your one? Is it the Dodgers or is it the Phils?
I'm gonna have the Dodgers still, dude. Like, we talk about like I hate to say it, man, but like for the Phils, I think they'll win 93, 94 games. I will say this: if Wheels comes back and pitches like Wheels, like we know, and if Aaron Nola bounces back along with Zeus and Sanchez, if that all materializes, and there is a question mark there, health is the question mark, right?
Hmm.
Why can't they win 100 games?
Yeah. No,
You won
I
100
listen.
games with a worse team 2 years
They
ago.
won. They won 96 game. What? Who did?
Oh, and they were on pace to, and then they kind of collapsed near the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they won 96 games last year, so it's not far off to get four more. So your playoff picture, you have Dodgers, Phillies, Cubs, and then your wild cards. You have what? Braves, Padres, Giants, 4, 5, 6. All
Yeah.
right, and then what's your World Series? Who's winning the World Series?
I'm going to have I hate to say this, bro. I sound like a basic Biatch. Dodgers over the Mariners.
All right, fair enough. All right, take me through. Take us to the awards.
Well, who won it last year? Was it Cal Raleigh?
No, it was Judge.
Oh, Judge won over Cal Raleigh. Okay. He's not even listed here. That's crazy.
It's top 5 based on, I think, the WAR predictions from Fangraphs.
How many MVPs does Judge have? 4?
I think 3. I
If
want to say he has 3.
if the Yankees make the playoffs as a wild card, does he get the MVP unless he has a redonkulous season, like 60 dingers, we'll say?
I mean, I don't think. No, I don't think it matters. Is what I'll say.
Do you think baseball doesn't suffer from voter fatigue like NFL does? We know in NFL.
Not as much. Not when you're like he's just putting up numbers that are like you want to go back to find a time it was on par and it's just the steroid era guys. And then you're like, oh, like he hit 37 home runs and 1,019 OPS in 106 games in 2023 when he got banged up.
Because
But
honestly,
surrounding
Michael,
that,
if J Rod can hit home runs, like he should probably be the MVP. Because with his defense and base running, he's like a 10 WAR player, right?
yeah, listen, if he puts it all together and has like a OPS pushing 1,000 with the great defense and fielding and is like has a lead over Judge and War, I could see him getting it for sure. So you have Julio as your
I'm
MVP?
gonna pick Julio. I'm not gonna be totally basic.
Sure.
AL Cy Young. I'm going with Garrett Crochet, Michael. I think
You're joining me with Crochet. I
I
like it.
going with Crochet.
Yeah, I like it. I do think that, thinking about the contract with uh thinking about the contract with Google looming, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't push it as hard. You know what I mean?
The McGonagall pick that you had is intriguing because I'm gonna be honest. You look at all these like Tiger prospect failures. We'll say
Mm-hmm.
if you want to go the route of okay, they all can't be failures or underachievers. We'll say
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. However, I think a lot of people are gonna bet Trey Savage because of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna go with Murakami.
Nice. With the White Sox. Yeah. Yeah. I could see it. All right, let's go through the NL.
Well, I mean, well, my theory,
It's tough
Soto's
to
not
win.
winning it because they won't even make the playoffs. They don't give MVP awards to pitchers, and that's stupid to me. I always thought that was dumb, right? And then
Sure.
we got Fernando. I mean, I don't know. Otani. This is free. Like literally, if you're gonna bet this, this is free. This is free money. If he's healthy, this is free money.
NL Cy Young, what do you got?
Again, Michael, I like your Sanchez pick. I do.
Mm-hmm.
However, the man wasn't even voted to make the All Star team.
He finished second in Cy Young.
He did finish second in Cy Young, Michael. That is correct. But man, when it comes to these awards, it feels like if you're a pitcher and you're scratched halfway through the month of September, does not count against you.
Yeah.
Do you kind of follow me there? In other
Yeah.
words, if Skeens is sat the last 2 weeks, it won't affect his voting.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like fans will be like, "Oh my god, look at that great Sanchez start where he just mowed through the Braves for 7 innings, 10 Ks," to
Mm-hmm.
secure the NL East, right? The dorks that vote for this don't care about that.
Yeah.
I think it's. I actually, now that I think about it, they're trying to push an agenda. We're trying to make Paul Skeens like the next like Roger Clemens, right? Is that the goal?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Skeens if he has another monster year. But if he's hurt for like a month or two because of his arm, then Michael, I 1,000% agree with you. I think Sanchez wins the Cy Young Award.
Well, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be really, really cool. All right, and then our rookie of the year.
So when we see with Rookie of the Year, you could play in 100 or 80 to 100 games. If you dominate in those 100 games like Nick Kurtz did, you'll still win the award.
Yeah.
So even though he won't be called up until like May, I'm going with Connor Griffin.
All right. So that'll wrap us up here. John has the Dodgers, Phillies, Cubs, Braves, Padres, Giants in the National League, with the Dodgers coming out, and the Mariners, Red Sox, Royals, Yankees, Tigers, Astros in the AL, and the Dodgers defeating the Mariners in the World Series. The regular season awards of Connor Griffin, NL Rookie of the Year, Munetaka Murakami, AL Rookie of the Year, Shohei Ohtani, NL MVP, Julio Rodriguez, AL MVP, Paul Skeens, NL Cy Young, and Garrett Crochet, NL Cy Young. And for myself, I have the Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, Mets, Cubs, Giants out of the National League, Mariners, Yankees, Tigers, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles out of the AL, and the Phillies defeating the Yankees in the World Series. And my awards go Bubba Chandler, NL Rookie of the Year, Kevin McGonigal, AL Rookie of the Year, NL MVP Shohei Ohtani, AL MVP Aaron Judge. Boring picks there, yes. And then both runner-ups in the Cy Young to win the award, Christopher Sanchez in the National League and Garrett Crochet as well in the American League. So Flyers just went down 3-1. Feels like they're not going to come back and win this one, unfortunately. But we did talk baseball, and we do have opening day very, very shortly, and that is a very exciting thing.
So there's a couple things of news of note that happened during our podcast. It's just the Eagle. We'll talk about this more on
I don't want
Saturday.
to talk about. We're not talking about football. We'll talk about it Saturday. We're
Oh,
not talking about it.
you know, I'm
No,
talking about a lot.
and we're not opening up the can of worms.
Eagles signing Elijah Moore.
Nope, we'll open it up on Saturday.
The Flyers are now losing 3-1 to the Columbus
Yeah.
Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that this weekend as well. All right, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for
Thanks
tuning in.
Have a good night.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.